It's Subverted Tropes, a podcast about movies, featuring your hosts Daniel Spencer and Kate Harlow. Welcome to another episode of Subverted Tropes. I'm Dan.
I'm Kate, and today we have a guest.
We do.
And I'm Jeff.
Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, me and Dan used to work together, a company I won't name in the, in the podcast. We had good times there. He was usually pretty good in mentoring and helping when I needed something. I myself am from Greenville. I went to East Carolina University, graduated with a degree in management, currently work in finance, and I live here in North Carolina, a little further away from Durham than I would like to be, but it's still a pretty decent drive. And now I've just been spending my days trying to get myself off the ground with my own podcast and trying to just, learn every secret there is to know about life.
I like that. Tell us a little bit more about that podcast.
Well, I haven't actually got anything off the ground yet. I've been going for kind of an interesting vibe from it, like talking about things that most people would kind of deem a little weird. I don't want to go into the topics right now,
okay,
but it's going to be just lighthearted, some serious notes, more lighthearted than serious, but in my own opinion, I'm just hoping to gather like minds to discuss, talk about these kind of things, have a good time. The name I came up with for it was Bite Size Paradox. It's kind of clever. I like it.
I love that name. That is fantastic.
Thank you.
Super fun.
Some of the things I'm going to be touching on are things that people deal with in everyday lives. Some things that people may be scared to ask questions about, those kind of things. So I'm hoping to grab a lot of listeners' attention with it. It's going to be fun.
That sounds real great.
We're looking forward to it.
Definitely. You'll have to let us know when it's up, and we'll make sure all our listeners, I was about to say viewers. Viewers is not the right word.
I almost said it too.
You can absolutely watch a podcast.
You can.
It's not very exciting.
We're on YouTube, and you can just watch the picture of our logo and the
logo.
movement of the little cursor along the sound waves.
It's pretty awesome.
Hey, if it's your thing, then, don't yuck somebody else's yuck.
That's a good point. If that's what you enjoy, then by all means, have a blast.
Awesome.
So let's go ahead and jump right in.
Yeah.
It's good that you mentioned Durham, North Carolina, because that's where our story kind of starts. So it was April 6th of 2009, and Colin Firth was in Durham, North Carolina, shooting the movie Main Street. And he first heard about the story of Richard and Mildred Loving. Jeff, do you have the history of the Lovings, or you want me to get into it?
You can start it off.
All right. So Richard and Mildred Loving were a couple in Virginia who were sentenced to a year in prison for being married to each other. They were violating...
Do you have a year on that?
1967.
Yep, okay.
It was significantly more recent than is excusable.
Be?
I mean, excusable isn't... It's never excusable. This is some bullshit.
Yeah, there's phrasing. I said should be, not should be, but
I knew what you mean.
Yeah.
So they
I feel
were.
like I'm going to struggle with that a lot this month.
I think that could be the case. There's just so many.
There's
anyway,
just so much bad that white people have done.
Yep.
Just a lot of it.
We're kind of terrible.
Yeah. There's a mix.
There's a mix.
I would say there's a mix.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of you to say.
So they were in prison for violating Virginia's anti-miscegenation law, which means that there could not be a mixed race marriage, because that is important for some fucking reason.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna jump out on a limb and say there's no good fucking reason.
Yeah, no, there's
a real
not.
Shitty reason.
I agree 100% on that.
So to speed their story along, just to give the quick summary of it, they wound up taking their case to the Supreme Court, where it was unanimously voted to overrule Pace versus Alabama, which was the original Supreme Court ruling saying that these were fine laws to have, and they ended all race-based legal restrictions on marriage. It's a very important couple.
Good job, Supreme Court.
Good job, Supreme Court.
Another interesting note I would like to put in there,
yes,
is that the decision was followed by an increase in interracial marriages, and it also attributed to a day known as Loving Day on June 12th. So just be mindful of that, guys. If you're interracially married, show some love to your spouse. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
It's a great day to celebrate. So Colin Firth was moved by their story, and he wanted to make a movie of it. He was discussing the Lovings with a documentarian, Nancy, I'm going to butcher this last name, Bwirski?
No.
Bwirski.
Okay.
Bwirski.
So she had expressed her plans to him that she was going to make a documentary about them. Mm-hmm. And Colin Firth decided he was going to make his own production company Rain Dog Films and wanted the story of the two of them to be one of his projects.
Awesome.
So they started working on a movie together, even though Bwierski still went ahead and did her documentary.
I was going to say, if she hadn't, she should have, because there's a big difference between a documentary and a feature film.
Yeah. I think her documentary came out in 2009, 2010, maybe? Mm-hmm. Critical acclaim. It's called The Loving Story. Highly recommend it.
Okay, I'll check that out.
And then, of course, Firth launched Rain Dog Films with Ged Doherty, who was brought alongside the project along with Bwierski and Firth because he was brought in by how passionate Firth and Bwierski were about their story. Initially, Firth wanted to write the novelization. Again, not the right word. I'm not with my words tonight.
The screenplay, the novel.
Yes. So he wanted to basically write the story for the not fictionalized movie, but the biopic. That's the word I'm looking for.
There we go.
Wanted to write the biopic, but he had a conversation with Martin Scorsese about it, and he said, maybe don't write it.
That's good, because I was going to say, that's such a white man response.
Yes.
What a beautiful story from a place that I will never personally experience. I need to write it down.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah,
no.
So instead, they went to Jeff Nichols, white male.
God damn it.
So they saw Take Shelter, a movie that he made, and they felt like he would do a really good job of bringing their story to life. So he was asked to write and direct the movie. He took that very seriously and watched Bwierski's documentary, visited all of the spots in their story, spoke with Peggy Loving, their only living child, and really was dedicated to getting the accuracy of their story down and wanted to make sure it was being portrayed properly.
Makes for a great film.
It does. They cast the movie pretty quickly. So Joel Edgerton would take on the role of Richard Loving, and Ruth Negga would take on the role of Mildred Loving. After her audition, Jeff Nichols said, Ruth had the voice, the posture, the facial expressions. She was Mildred. When she left the room, I turned to the others and said, well, do we really need to see anyone else? They did not. They cast her pretty much immediately because she was perfect for it. She also watched the documentary and really studied everything she could about Mildred to make sure she was bringing that role.
And she did.
Accurately.
She was excellent. She was phenomenal. She really was.
After that, they kind of cast everybody else. So Michael Shannon, Bill Camp, Martin Sokas, C-S-O-K-A-S. I got no idea how to pronounce that. Chokas, Sisakus, Martin.
There we go.
John Bass and Nick Kroll.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Kroll.
Nick
Yes,
Kroll.
Indeed he is. He's in it.
I'm very interested to see him not being a sarcastic asshole.
You'll be surprised.
Did you look into it? is he actually a sarcastic asshole?
So I know that he plays a lawyer
Okay.
who takes their case.
Jeff is shaking his head.
Yes.
I think Nick Kroll actually made good this time.
He did. I mean, he had some moments where he was. You could definitely tell it was Nick Kroll, but at the same time, he played his role very well, and he. I mean, I round of applause to him on that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's good to hear. This is the second movie that Sokas and Michael Shannon would work together. Their first time being everybody's favorite Christopher Walken vehicle, Kangaroo Jack. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm really glad that they thought, hey, let's get together on this.
Yeah. Let's go from Kangaroo Jack.
The unofficial sequel.
I haven't seen Kangaroo Jack, so now in my mind it's a movie about someone trying to marry
A kangaroo.
a kangaroo in Australia, and
It's remarkable how behind their laws are when it comes to
landmark
marsupial marriage.
legislation.
It is interesting indeed. Very interesting. Check it out.
Yeah, I think we might have to do an episode on Kangaroo Jack now.
Maybe.
Except that would mean that we'd have to watch Kangaroo Jack, and I've been told not to.
Oh, it's fine. You'll love
Is
it.
it?
You'll love it.
All right, good.
It's great.
Good.
It's great.
So Nichols was very passionate about the project, like I said, and he was talking about how it had the potential to have a wider effect for two different reasons. Mm-hmm. While they were making the movie, the Supreme Court was debating about same-sex marriage, and so they're like, people are going to draw parallels here of here's this stupid law about marriage that got overturned, so can we draw that parallel on same-sex marriage? But also, he was talking about how the conversation of race in America was really starting to get serious
Yeah, started to...
and
What
really
a
starting
road
to
we've
pick
gone
up.
down.
Right?
Come a long way.
Yeah.
Still facing it, but we've come a long way.
It's true.
Progress is progress, but there's still a lot of progress to be made.
A stumbly path.
Yes.
A stumbly drunken American path we've had.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. That's a good
so
way to put it.
drunken.
He was also very excited about how a movie like this could help spark along the conversation of race. Mm-hmm. And Edgerton, as well, was very swept up in it. He said that his quote was, "I was very emotionally connected to it. I mean, as an audience member. I was standing back, happy about the ultimate Supreme Court decision, but I did feel a very deep anger," which I think is fair.
Yeah.
That it's just some bullshit.
Yeah.
Telling people who they can and cannot love is some bullshit.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's almost like an invasion of privacy. I mean, you think about it, like I feel like it's one of those things where it's like you found this person, no one's help. You know, you get along with this person. It's like a soulmate to you, or you feel connected to that person.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there should be any reason why anyone should ever come into contact with those people and tell them they can't love each other. I mean, it's love. That's one of those things where it's like it's there. You can't escape it. It's within everyone. How can you be a human and tell someone you can't love someone because of their skin color? That whole thing to me just drives me up the wall, and I think that's why this movie struck a chord with me so well.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. I can totally understand that.
Yeah.
So
Guys, this might shock you. We all have some pretty strong opinions.
yeah.
And they're all pretty well aligned right now.
So production designer Chad Keith said that the greatest creative challenge for him was doing justice to the Lovings and their story, but also acknowledging that they're making a movie about real people and real things that happened, and that there's not always going to be pretty stuff in there.
That's true.
So it was the first time that Keith had worked on anything that was like a period piece, per se.
Right.
That had, a different time from the one that we're in right now. I am not wording. So Nichols actually asked him, "Is this something that you think you can do?" And Keith just immediately answered, "I'm certain I can." Very passionate to bring about the story. So that's all the notes I have before we watch it. But before we do that, I'd love to turn it over to Jeff and say what is important to you about this movie.
Well, the biggest thing that stuck out with me is, I guess I should disclaim, I am in an interracial marriage, and I have been since 2014. Beforehand, I would always hear people talk about how it was such a taboo to be with someone that was of a different race, and I could never understand it because I was, raised in a family where it didn't matter what skin color they had or what nationality or origin, race they were. If you love someone, you love someone, You're with them because you love them for them, and not because of their color, not because they're black, not because they're white, not because they're Asian, Hispanic, anything of that nature. And to see these people fighting for something they really cared about simply because they loved each other. It wasn't even any hidden agenda to it. It wasn't, hey, well, this person has this or this person has that. It was solely because they loved each other for who they were. It pulled on my heartstrings a little bit, I'll be honest with you. And I'm not really too much of a sappy person. This movie had me tearing up because I've seen it in public with my own wife. I'll go out and I'll have people giving you the stare or double taking, and just, it's awkward. It's like, well, haven't you seen interracial couples before? It's nothing new. This is the 21st century. We're together. We're happy. We're minding our business. We're not bothering anyone. We're not rude to anyone. She's polite. I'm polite. So it's one of those things where it's like, why does it trigger you so much? Like what's pissing you off that bad that you have to stare or you want to say something, or then you come up to me and you say, what nationality is she, or where is she from? Like she's not a human being standing beside me. It is so frustrating. And I'm like, why don't you ask me where I'm from? I mean, I could be from fucking Africa for all we know, but we're all American here. We're clearly American. We're together. Like why draw such a line? And it drives me crazy to see that. And seeing them just saying, we love each other. Like there was, I don't want to spoil the movie for you guys, but there was a quote in that movie from Richard, and it was just beautiful, man. He said something that really stuck out to me, and I think that's where the movie actually hit home. And when you guys watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about, but it means so much to me to see people, and it's not to say that I don't care for people of same race, being married. It's just,
of course.
But you didn't find your soulmate in somebody of the same race, and that would be different if that was the case.
Absolutely, and I think it's just beautiful when people accept it, because we're all human. We have to live on the same planet. I mean, you could try to go somewhere else if you want to. I don't know how successful you'll be, but just
probably not as successful as you imagine you're going to be.
Exactly, you won't get far.
If you pick up your life and think that you're going to be totally okay in Scandinavia, you're going to be surprised.
Yes.
Good luck. I mean, and it's just anywhere for that matter. I mean, I'm not saying there I'm getting off the topic here. The movie was it was beautiful. It was a beautiful piece. I'll watch it again, which we're about to. But when you see this kind of thing and then you see it in today's society, it's 2018 now, and you see this now, people are still hung up about it. People don't like it. You wonder, it's like, how far have we really come if people are still that angry about people of different races being together? Like, it's such a crime. So I don't know. It just really hit home with me, and me and my wife thought it was an amazing movie. And I think you guys will like it.
I'm very
excited.
Yay.
We ready to watch it?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
And we are back.
My God, that was great.
That is a powerful movie.
Wasn't it?
Yes. Thank you first off, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
And nextly, thank you for bringing us this movie because it is beautiful, just stunning and amazing, and I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, it was. So I went in with very high expectations just from all the research that I'd done, and it surpassed them. Holy crap, that movie was incredible.
So good.
And I don't think I've heard anyone say otherwise, honestly. It's one of those movies where you're not expecting it.
You would have to be a bigot or an idiot or both to not appreciate everything about this film.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's only my second time seeing it. I saw some small documentaries about it, but even this time, guys, I am not a sappy person. I have to admit, I teared up. It's so moving. Yeah. And when you get the simplicity of their love and what they fought for, after seeing this movie, you understand why it's such a, like, you can grow to appreciate something like this. And if you don't, you have no soul. I mean, in my opinion, you have no soul. You should die.
Hands down.
But beautiful movie indeed.
So beautiful.
So I want to cover a couple of additional notes before we get into, kind of delving more into this movie. I will say it's tough to talk about tropes on a plot basis for biopics like this. And I know one of the other movies we'll be covering later in the month is What's Love Got to Do with It? And that's going to be kind of difficult to talk about plot tropes. I think we can talk about like movie making tropes. I've got a couple of things we can bring up about this movie in a little bit.
I think that's fair.
Before we delve into that, just a couple of quick other notes about it. So this movie opened up in 4 theaters.
Wow.
Originally in 2016.
Wow.
In November of 2016.
Really?
For its opening weekend, it opened up to $169,000, averaging a per screen amount of $42,250. For comparison, this was significantly more than the opening weekend for Doctor Strange. It was the same weekend as Doctor Strange.
Oh, wow.
And it blew it out of the water.
Wow.
For opening weekend in terms of its on-screen, its per-screen average.
That's incredibly hopeful.
Yes.
That makes me feel good for humanity.
Well, at least we're headed in the right direction.
Right?
Because I will admit, I was at Doctor Strange that week.
I am kind of sad I didn't sit. It's good.
It's
it's
real
good.
good.
It took me a while
It's
to
real
see
good.
it, but it was real good.
Different
Very
kind of
different
feeling.
movie. Very different. But yeah, so its second weekend, it opened up. It was across 46 theaters across the country. It brought in $532,000 and was the number one movie that weekend for platform releases, which is like, rather than just opening up all across America, platform releases like staggered, kind of like what it was. I mean, what it was doing. 4 and then 46 and then a whole lot more. And so it was extremely successful in theaters. I'm really bummed I didn't see it in theaters because this was a beautiful movie.
Yeah,
Holy
the
crap.
cinematography is so gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Just so beautiful.
And the music, just everything, experiencing that in the full theater scale would have just been something else.
Even more tears.
Yeah.
Even more tears.
I'm certain of that.
See, now my brain is like rolling. I'm like, okay, Loving Day is June 2nd. So I wonder if I can like reach out to a theater.
June 12th. 12th.
Okay, my brain got a little muddled there because they were married on June 2nd.
Yes.
So I was like, well, that makes sense.
That's good. Beautiful.
But June 12th. June 12th. I want to make something happen.
I would, I mean, there's plenty of, theaters in the area that are, kind of smaller indie theaters, and I'll bet we could have a conversation with them and be like, hey, you should show this.
Here's a really great idea.
Yeah.
Forget Valentine's Day. I mean, Loving Day. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's what it's
100%.
about.
I feel it.
100%. So this movie got accolades out the wazoo. Everybody loved it. Acting, directing, faithfulness to the story, set design, again, music, cinematography, everything was just everyone spoke very highly of all of those things because they did a really great job with it.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. So well done.
Peggy Loving was a huge fan of Edgerton and Nega's interpretation, or portrayal, I guess would be the better word, but portrayal of her parents. She actually at one point called Edgerton Daddy on set. And he said that was the biggest approval compliment he had ever gotten. This is such a big thing for him.
It's an honor.
Yeah,
so
seriously.
Can you put up that side-by-side photo that you found?
Oh, yeah,
on the
without a
blog,
doubt.
please?
So I'll be putting up a few side-by-side photos of...
It's so...
We were talking about this. Like, for the most part, I don't see Joel Edgerton as playing this kind of quiet, a little bit more timid guy. He seems...
His persona is more big and brash.
Yeah. And so it was a little shocking to me to see that. I kept waiting for him to kind of fly off the handle, and he doesn't, which I really love. But also, like, looking at the side-by-side pictures of the two of them and the actual Lovings, they did an amazing job with casting. They picked the people who looked spot
pretty damn
on.
close.
Yeah.
And then they did a good job of
and it
pushing
wasn't
them over
just
that line.
you're getting this role because you look the part. It is really truly an embodiment. It's
they became
so rare
the
that you can
Lovings.
find that combination.
They nailed
So,
it. So you got a combination of them actually looking very similar to them and acting. I mean, it was like their spirits were just in those people on that set. It was a beautiful thing, really.
It's amazing.
It was just real great. The same thing for Nick Kroll. Nick Kroll does a phenomenal job in this. And
Yes.
I have to apply the Jim Carrey rule. Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
It applies to Jack Black in the movie Bernie.
Yes. Yes.
It's Bernie's a great movie. It's a half documentary, half movie. It's real weird. About a guy who, not unlike a story we were just telling, befriended an old lady who had a lot of money and then
Super murdered her.
super duper murdered her. She treated him poorly. He snapped. He shot her a bunch. He hid her body in a freezer and used all of her money to make the town better.
Which is, I mean, that's
I don't know how I feel about that.
It's
That's
so
the thing.
bonkers.
It's
so
a
bonkers.
bonkers movie. Last I checked, it was on Netflix. It's real good.
I believe it's still there.
Jack Black
But it's just
is
such a
being
rare
a serious role. If you take
Jack
these,
Black role.
Right.
But like,
You wouldn't expect it out of him.
exactly.
Yes.
So my Jim Carrey rule is if you take this over the top bonkers comedy actor and put them in a serious role, they do a really
get
great
magic.
job. You get magic.
You really
it
do.
really,
And it might just be
absolutely.
that there's more impact because they're not doing their crazy shtick. But
yeah,
Nick
there's
Kroll is
an amazing
really
subtlety
great in
to it.
this.
He did really fantastic. And his character, Bernard Cohen, really, he did have funny moments, but it wasn't played as like a ha-ha, wink-wink to the camera, which I appreciated so much.
Yeah, it wasn't, look at how goofy we are. Ooh.
Yeah. It was much more subtle and well done. I think Nick Kroll reserved all of his poise and charisma for this one thing.
Yeah, I think that's
He truly did, especially
About accurate.
from what you see him portraying in most things. You're like, wait a minute, this guy,
Yeah.
this guy's a lawyer here.
Yeah.
This guy's helping these guys out from this organization, and this guy's not being an ass. It was brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal. So, like I said earlier, I think it's tough to talk about plot tropes.
Yeah.
But movie making tropes, I think we can talk about. And one particular example is when the boy gets hit by the car.
Yeah.
And they draw it out before they tell you that he's okay. They make it real dramatic. They do the silent scene of his older brother running towards him, and like
And it's intercut with Richard at the work site almost
Right.
getting
almost getting hit
knocked
with something.
out by something falling.
And so, like, while it's done well, it's still definitely a trope that we have of we're drawing out this dramatic thing, but everything's fine.
Yeah.
But to the untrained eye, I would say they would have definitely thought something was seriously wrong.
Oh,
there.
yeah, no.
It was
I
yeah.
totally
perfect.
thought something
It
was
perfect.
seriously
You're
wrong.
like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
shit, no, not the little kids. They're so adorable. And most people, I don't like kids that much. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But their kids were adorable and precious. So to see that and you're like, oh my goodness, are these kids dead? Did this little boy just die? Like, after all the stuff they're going through, it's kind of impressive. I mean, it's impressive how
let's kick the mother down. Let's kill a kid.
Right. Yeah, let's wow the audience. No, it was awesome that he was okay.
Another trope is the passage of time. It's something you don't see very often, so it's not a great trope, but passage of time being shown by children aging.
Yeah.
Which they applied beautifully. It was so well done.
I think I would say that this is a like the name of the show, a subverted trope of like, rather than telling us, you're this many years later, or this much time later, they just imply it by showing the kids at different ages. And I think that's something that I know I personally will talk a lot about, is assuming the intelligence of your audience.
Yes.
And
not beating them over the head with it, like and singing
things.
In the rain.
And they're just like, this is, you guys can make the cognitive leap here that these kids
Where'd
are
they
now
get those
older.
other kids?
Right.
Where is it?
Like,
these ones are older.
Did the other ones die? Did they adopt? Like something?
Was there another car accident?
How many cars are in D.C.?
Why don't they make stickball illegal?
That's right. Stickball should be outlawed.
It's the one thing they got out of all of that. Damn you, stickball.
Guys, we really picked up on the point of the movie. Stickball. Stickball sport is evil.
Stickball is the worst.
Damn you.
They also used the weather to a lesser extent. Like, I think once or twice, the establishing shot for a scene was like, oh, now there's snow. I guess time has passed again.
Yeah.
But it's not like a 30-second establishing shot of snow falling. And it's like winter time.
Yeah.
Like,
I also like that there wasn't like one technically specifically bad guy in the movie.
Yeah.
As much as it was just, this is a bullshit law in the state of Virginia.
yeah, and they make it so ambiguous about, like, I mean, the clerk in the police office. Like, he's not a good guy, but like he's not a like hand wringing bad guy. But then like it comes at you later, like, oh, the mother like has some shit to say.
Yeah,
like it comes at you from like all sides, and I can shockingly I can only imagine what that's like. But like, it's so pervasive and insidious, and they show that really, really well.
Agreed.
They really do.
One of the things that I wasn't a huge fan of when I was reading through the research notes is that they were trying to make the sheriff not seem like he was a bad guy. He was just following a bad law.
I read that as well.
Yeah, but
No.
And first of all, no, they definitely make, like, he's definitely an ass. And second of all, like, if you think it's a bullshit law, then you can fudge the numbers. Like, no, he clearly was on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
And his daughter actually was interviewed about it. And she said, yeah, no, he had these beliefs. This was who he was. He was not a good person.
good on her for owning up to it and saying it instead of trying to like rug sweep and say like, oh no, my daddy was just doing his job.
Yeah, I was checking something out on the case, and it was a guy that I think preceded the judge previously, and he was the one that was saying that that police officer wasn't a bad guy. He was just doing his job. No, I from the accuracy of that film, I don't think they would have made that guy that much of an asshole if he really wasn't an asshole. So I didn't buy that for 1 second. He was also one of those guys that was like, yeah, it was just he was doing his job in a time where it was accepted. No, you have moral values as a human being, and I just feel like as a human being, you should be one of those people that's like, wait a minute. Why am I arresting these people for just loving each other?
Exactly.
They're not killing everybody or killing someone once a week and then loving each other. They're not like burying children and then loving each other or saying, hey, we can only do this unless we, kidnap 2 kids a week. Like, it's nothing weird like that.
I just love the concept of killing someone and then loving you. Like, Kate, I love you.
Only if you murdered somebody.
All right. Well, sorry, Jeff.
Why am I here? It's one of those things. But it's just, I don't know. He tried to make the guy sound like he was such a chivalrous cop. It just
like he was still okay. And that's, I mean,
there's so much of that out there of people just saying, it was just a different time. No, bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit.
I mean,
I'm
not here for
let's
that.
look at the pervasive issue of race and cops these days.
Anyway, Another
Still
subject.
a lot of issues. That's another subject that I'll go on a long rant about at
Yeah.
some point, and probably not post in a podcast at any point. Because
luck
it
if
would
you
be
do.
expletive filled.
Yep. Well, rightfully so.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, it's like the like sodomy laws and stuff. Like, you know what? That shit's supposed to be in your bedroom. I could see like maybe making a big deal out of it if it's in the fucking Target lobby, but like,
But if it's a fucking Target lobby, then apparently
Okay,
that's
that's
the place,
different.
That's the Target
That
for
is
it.
okay,
true.
sorry, regular Target, the non-sexual Target.
Yeah, like-
but like, why are people trying to police what people do in their own goddamn bedrooms?
Exactly. Who
It
cares?
does.
Yeah, that scene where they
It's not
broke
your
into the
business.
room.
Yeah, no, that was so infuriating. And I love that he points to the marriage license. He's like, "We're good," and they're like, "No,
Not here. You are.
not here because we're assholes."
Yeah,
But
and
no,
we couldn't have come and arrested you during the day. We decided
Right.
to make this as dark
Personal.
and personal
And
and
creepy.
humiliating as
Yeah.
possible. We as a human race
I really
have a
don't
long
know
way to
how
go.
far. I truly don't know how far I would have made it in that situation because
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to sleep.
yeah,
Like I'm trying to sleep. I have to work in the morning. I mean that's just a small portion of it, but it's extremely disrespectful.
Oh, yeah.
And I just got married. I had the license here. It wasn't in this state. How can you just say that's not allowed here? It's the most racist thing you could do. And I don't know, that whole scene rubbed me wrong.
yeah,
Yeah, that's another.
There's just a lot of
it's
issues.
just there's so much.
This movie was really, really good, though. Thank you so much
Yes,
for picking this.
thank
This was
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
top notch.
Absolutely.
I'd love to give you a minute to, if you have anything you'd like to plug or just talk about at all, then, go for it.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your show here, but the biggest thing that I wanted to get out to people in regards to this movie and in general is just when it comes to the things that, I don't know, people or these people in this time classified as like, what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess you could say, to keep it simple, separating us. I just don't feel like when it comes to love and it comes to like being with someone you truly enjoy, you cherish, you value, don't let anything or anyone like dictate that. I mean, we live in a time now where segregation shouldn't even be a topic of discussion. I mean, maybe for historical purposes or educational purposes, but nowadays, I mean, you see so many people in public that are of interracial background. They're married, they have children, and to even think that someone could be out there with the same thoughts that someone had in the 60s towards the subject, or I guess you could say the topic, is almost disgusting in my opinion. And it's my opinion, and I'm entitled to that. But I guess the biggest thing I would impart upon people is just, love everybody. There's no point for all the hate. We can't advance as a society if we're constantly separating each other based on things such as race, religion, like sex. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, how many people can honestly raise their hand and say that it truly matters? I mean, we're all equal. We're all human. We have to be together on this planet regardless of whether you're black, white, you're purple, brown, you're pink, you're gray. It doesn't matter. You're here. You're here. We're here for a reason. And I don't think it's to hate each other and continuously divide, because we can't get anywhere that way. So I think the biggest thing that I took out of this movie was just like, you really do have to be a sick son of a bitch to hate someone for being married of a different. I mean, people are different. It's everywhere. It's prevalent everywhere. I don't care if you could be the same nationality, you could be the same religion. When I went to church, this is another topic. I mean, even as simple as a classroom, you see it everywhere. There is nowhere you can go now unless it's some secret cult shit that people are going to be like of the same race and be okay with it, but only on some racist level shit. I mean, I don't know. It blows my mind, but. Again, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic here. No. The biggest thing that I really, truly wish to impart upon people is just that no matter what you do, love your brother and sister. You don't have to call them brother and sister, but love one another. Be respectful to one another, and if you do see something that you're not comfortable with, keep it to your fucking self, because no one cares. No one cares. We're living in a world now where it's okay. It's okay. I mean, you watch the movie, you understand why it's okay. Those things are outlawed. It's unconstitutional. You have to you have to be accepting of people because honestly, they probably don't care anyway. So I don't know. I'm gonna stop ranting here. I'm pretty much ranting, and I'll let these guys get back to their discussion here.
No. I like it. I would
Amen.
only have one suggested addendum to love everybody, and that's
Punch Nazis.
punch Nazis.
Punch Nazi. Wow, how did I not think of that? You get touche.
Because you're coming from a much nicer place than both of us.
I am.
But no, other than that, I completely agree with you. There's too much hate going on, and we have to.
There's too much separation.
Yeah,
Look how far
You
we've
don't,
come.
need,
everybody,
you don't need
man.
to throw up walls.
yeah.
It's America. It's the melting pot. We're supposed to take
Yes.
care of each other.
We are.
Now I want fondue though.
Oh, fondue sounds great.
Let's do it.
All right, let's all. So once the podcast is over, we're gonna make a field trip out to the melting pot, which I'm sure
It's super
is
open right
still
now.
open at 9:30 at night.
It is. It really is.
Oh shit! All right then.
Oh yeah.
But no, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
This was very enjoyable. I think a lot of fun to record. Really great movie to watch.
Check it out, guys.
And as always, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, YouTube, wherever you find your podcasts.
Spotify now.
Still aren't technically up yet on Spotify.
Get
but
your
are
shit
working
together,
on it. Get
Spotify.
your shit together, Spotify. I don't think
I
they're gonna
love
like that.
Spotify.
I love you. I listen to you all the time.
That's right. You can find us on Twitter at Subverted Tropes.
If you want to send us any emails, if you have any suggestions or any commentary that you don't want to put on the Twitters, you can send us an email at subvertedtropecast@gmail.com. And please check out our blog. We're going to be throwing up a lot of really great photos and just some extra information about this fantastic movie. And that is subvertedtropecast.wordpress.com.
And you can find links to both our blog and what I'm about to talk about, our logo designer. If you go to our Podbean page on the left-hand side, we now have links to both of those sites. So you can
Fancy.
find our logo designer, Gracie Boland, who we'd love to thank for our logo. You can find her on Instagram at a fandom doodler or Etsy at that crazy princess. Her Etsy shop is on the link on our Podbean page. So, and
We're on the Facebook now.
we are also on the Facebook.
This
We've
plug
got a
is getting
fan page there. It
ridiculous.
really is. And of course, we'll keep you all posted on Bite Size Paradox podcast soon coming from Jeff. That should be a blast. So,
It's going to be interesting.
thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week.